Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome to another edition of Rock the Stage Show, and we always love having amazing guests from around the world from different categories. If you're new to the show, welcome in 2026. We're streaming on YouTube, Roku, Amazon Fire, IPTV, and of course our connections with the Brave Arts TV network. More and more shows are going up and adding to the catalog, so please come along to the journey in this brand new year. Today's guest has scaled billion-dollar businesses, interviewed the world's top performers. No exaggeration there at all. He's mastered one overlooked leadership advantage that I've never talked about. I've never heard anyone else talk about, and it's the energy connected to leadership. In this episode, we're going to explore how the elite executives communicate under pressure, but protect their mental edge and show up powerfully on global stages and without burning out. And that's a key in our world today. Leaders are burning out faster and faster. Doug Gordon is my guest today. He is an ex-C-level business head, now award-winning speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, and energy optimizer from Dublin in the London area. Please welcome Doug Gordon to Rock the Stage Show. And come on in, Doug. We're rocking.
Rich, lovely to see you.
Great to see you once again. We met in 2025. Here we are in 2026. And you are so fascinating. You have done so many amazing things, but this idea of energy grabbed me. And I said, I got to have this guy on my show. Your energy got me.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an absolute pleasure for anybody who's listening. From my heart to your heart, thank you for taking the time.
Well, really, this is amazing. And again, let's just back up the train a little bit. You have gone from global leadership, you've scaled financially, you've managed business teams globally. What did that journey, first of all, teach you about communication and leadership and how to scale it?
Yeah, so I think if we go right back to my university days, which I actually did engineering, I remember I went there for sports. So I went there to play hockey. And for you over in America, it's field hockey. And actually, field hockey over in Europe is played in the Olympics by men as well as women. So I went there specifically really to play hockey, did some engineering on the side. But I remember I was in project groups with a lot of kind of Chinese and Japanese guys who were very, very studious, did all the work in the project group. They gave out stink to me for not doing more work. So I promised that I would do the presentation in the thesis or the master's or whatever so that I could make up for the fact that maybe their language skills weren't quite as good. So that was the first time I really got into presenting, to selling, to pitching, to giving a kind of a story behind whatever subject that we had. And that got me into eventually then going into sales. And I went into sales, started right at the bottom. I was starting on a customer services line, telesales line, then got into sales support for a sales guy out on the road. Then I became the sales guy. Then I became the sales manager. Then I became the sales director. Then I became the head of sales and on the board and all that kind of stuff. And it was a progression as I went along. And I remember one of my bosses said to me, he says, Doug, I don't know how you do it. You know, you don't do any more work than anybody else.
Yes.
What is it? What's the secret? And I said, well, I just have interest in people. I think in sales, quite a lot, people get it the wrong way around. They forget actually that sometimes that we got two ears and
Yes.
one mouth, and we use them in the wrong way too much. And when you truly look to listen, and when you truly look to ask questions to understand rather than making assumptions, then you really can get to know. And also as a salesperson, I always tried to get long-term relationships with people rather than quick sales. And if I look now, still on my Facebook, I have Facebook friends who are C-level at banks like UBS and HSBC, who are my old clients, who are still friends today as well.
Well, that curiosity, I think, is part of the missing link sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to be curious about not the product or the service. We have to be curious about them as humans first, I think, more and more.
100%, Rich. I think people buy people. I was at the Web Summit recently, and there was 75,000 people there talking about AI bots, AI sales tools, all this kind of stuff. But those 75,000 people were there, shaking hands, looking people in the eye, connecting with people on the heart level. And that, regardless of what we think about, digital marketing, about sales or whatever, it is people by people. And connecting in the energetic, physical sense cannot be beaten, and it never will as well.
So let's talk about this energy because executives often talk about numbers and numbers and numbers, but you frame up energy as optimization. It's a measurable performance multiplier, you say. It's not that soft leadership skills. It's actually there's a hidden energy cost behind the $1 billion decision. Is that kind of accurate? The energy helps you get someplace further?
Well, let's think about it, right? So, money is an exchange for energy,
Yep.
time, knowledge, and experience. And
Yes.
time, knowledge, and experience all take energy. So, if you can optimize your energy, you can optimize your performance. But also, if you think about it as well, in terms of turning up as that leader or that team member or that salesperson working with a client, if you turn up with more energy in
Yes.
terms of more positivity, it's much more likely they're going to be wanting to be dealing with you. The other thing is that emotions are energy in motion. So
Mm,
if you have an emotional nervous system that's all over the place, if you're overthinking, if you got self-doubt, if you got worry, if you're procrastinating because of having that emotional nervous system that's kind of skewed and all over the place, you're going to be wasting time and wasting energy. And you can also potentially make the wrong decisions as well. Whereas if your nervous system and your emotions are very much in sync, they're
mm.
balanced, they're calm, and they're collective. That means that when there comes to difficult decisions, when there's more kind of stress, you're going to make the right decisions to make that success.
Is that why sometimes you walk in the room and there's that electrical buzz around certain people? You walk in and go, wow, it's their energy. It's not just what they're emoting. It's something else going on that we don't fully understand.
100%, Richie. Like, if you think about it, you can walk into a room, two people have just had an argument, you can feel that. You
Yeah.
feel like turning around and running straight back out. Or if you have a really busy week at work, it's like a Thursday or Friday, you're going out with clients in the evening, you're tired, you don't feel like it, you go anyway, there's amazing energy there, great people there, you end up dancing your socks off and you feel fantastic the next day. That's energy, of course, passing from one person to the next. And you can go into some bars and you can come out only having a couple of drinks and feel like you're really hungover the next day. Other bars, you can have a load of drinks, you come out and feel amazing the next day because the exchange of energy between the positive people makes you feel good. So if you're around positive people, they say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, right? We can
Right.
see that energetically. It's proven scientifically. So that's why if you get yourself into the best possible energetic state, your vibe attracts your tribe. So you're going to attract some more positive people and you're going to get more positive results.
Let's clarify something because energy is something I talk about from the leadership, communication, and being on stage. There is crazy energy. You have those people on stage like Robin Williams who just can't stop. They vibrate and it's crazy. There's passive energy that's boring. They're still energizing. What are you describing when you're into this energy? How can you help us frame that up so they know what we're looking at, what we're feeling?
Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can go on stage and you can be super, enthusiastic and energetic, and people can feel that. And I remember when I first started speaking on stage and I was being paid to speak, I remember people going up and they're writing like LinkedIn recommendations and testimonies going, energy, energy, energy. And I'm like, what about the content, right?
Right.
Um, and and then generally after a while, obviously they actually listened to me what I was saying rather than just kind of feeling and seeing the energy. But when you're on stage, there is obviously the visual as you can see
Mhm.
me. There's the audio in terms of you can hear me, but also there's the kinesthetic. It's how you
Mm.
make somebody feel. So when I'm talking about somebody, I'm teaching somebody how to present on stage or communicate effectively. It's about using your voice effectively, using the tonality of your voice and how you speak through the pace or the pause or whatever it might be to create a sense of energy and motion to be able to touch them, feel them, so they walk away with an experience rather than just hearing something they might hear on YouTube as well. And that's the big difference between being in the presence, the energy of somebody in an actual conference or a summit or a training or something like that, than actually just being and listening to something on YouTube as well.
So you just hit on YouTube. I'm a virtual leadership consultant. I coach and teach people how to get more energized, break the glass here. What's your viewpoint on how far that energy can go through the camera? You're a broadcaster yourself. You've been on my camera. How far can we go here, do you think?
Well, I think there is a sense of presence and a sense of where focus goes, energy flows. So if the person who's listening at the time is truly there with the intention, the energy of really want to make change in their own self, then yes, they can look at one of your videos, they can listen to what you say, they can get that intention, and they can connect with your heart, even though you're not there personally. Having said that, I think if someone turns up to a summit or a conference or whatever, and it can be virtual, don't get me wrong, they're there in a sense of presence, a sense of focus, and a sense of intention. And as I'm not a biblical man, by the way, but as in the Bible, it does say where there's two or more of faith, God will be there. So if the two of you are there at the time with the same intention, it's very powerful. I was speaking at University College Dublin, which is UCD over here. There's about 150 people in front of me, and we were talking about, it was the power of inner focus. And one of the things I talked about was I did a meditation guiding healing, which I do, to help people release and forgive and let go of somebody in the past.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. There was 150 people doing it there at the same time. And at the end of it, a lady put her hand up and said, "Can I just share something?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she said, "Literally, we finished that forgiveness technique. And literally 5 minutes later, I got a text from someone I hadn't spoken to in like 5 years saying, 'I'm really sorry for the past. Can you please forgive me now?'" And then I got off the stage and another Indian lady came up and said the same thing. So that power of intention of being there at the time is amazing, how things can happen when there's a collective energy, a collective intention towards something positive in some way.
So let's talk about that intentionality, because you've been in the power boardrooms. You've really been there. You've also been on that broadcasting stage. Leaders now having to deal with the media more and more, even in the business world. They think something privately with their boardroom, and they say something publicly at the podium. Where's that journey? What's going on behind the scenes? Fill us in on how they're navigating, because there's that energy, the thought process, but sometimes they say things in the boardroom they'll never say on microphone.
Of course. Look, at the end of the day, having worked in corporate world for 21 years and for the last 7 years, advised people at places like Dell, Samsung, JP Morgan and other places like that, there are things you're going to say in the boardroom. There are things you're going to be saying between staff and colleagues and team members that you would never say publicly, because at the end of the day, you need to protect your brand, and things go wrong. It doesn't always happen in a smooth line in anything in the business, and you learn from your failures, you learn from your mistakes. But when you're a public company, you don't want to be telling people about certain things that you've made in terms of mistakes, just because the way the stock market works, you can sometimes get penalized that something in a short term might make a little bit of difference, but over the long term will make no difference whatsoever. And actually, when you fail, sometimes you can learn so much from it. And, we look for the guys who failed or the girls that have failed, because if you haven't failed in life, you're not living to the full, potential. And if you think about it, when a 1-year-old starts walking, they are trying to walk, they try it 1,000 times and then they perfect it, and then they end up walking and then running and whatever. So we need to make sure that the people out there, the companies out there, are failing. Because if they're not failing, they're not taking risks, they're not trying new things.
Oh,
And that kind of company is not what I want to invest in. I want to invest in someone who is really going to be innovative, kind of think outside of the box, take risk,
mm.
not ridiculous, but at the same time, something that's going to create a change in that industry in a positive way, or for that company in a positive way, to make an impact in terms of increased revenue, increased profitability as well.
So what's Doug's biggest FUBA mistake learning lesson that you've ever had?
Well, the biggest mistake I think I've made, Rich, is coming out of corporate world, where I would be on the phone literally all the time. Literally, I made my sales by getting on the phone, person after person after person, connecting on the phone to create a meeting, to meet the person, to create a relationship, then bring the specialist in, whether it be the fund manager or the technical guy or whatever, and then hopefully create a sale at the end. And then a long-term relationship building on top of that as well, in terms of servicing and everything like that. I came out, and of course, everybody was talking social media. Everybody was talking digital marketing. And I tried it and did it. And yes, it did work. But one of the things that I really say now is do not rely on it. You still need to pick up the phone. You still need to do those meetings. You still need to connect on the heart in terms of networking. Those kind of things are the big difference that makes in a business. So I actually interviewed one guy, and he had a business which was doing to do with teaching big companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, and a few others how to do digital marketing. And new staff would come in and they'd use this platform, this training platform, and it would teach them. And I said to him, I said, so it's all about digital marketing. Is that how you got those Pepsi and those Microsoft and the, he goes, no, Doug, I rang up the right people. I met with the right people. I created relationships with the right people and created sales with the right people. It was nothing to do with digital marketing, nothing to do with social media ads. And I think that's key as well. There is a place for those social media ads.
Yes.
There is a place for SEOs, but you cannot beat in terms of whether you're a coach, consultant, you've got a product or service, you cannot beat increasing and improving your communication skills, your presentation skills, your sales skills, and meet people, create those relationships, and watch your business grow.
Everyone pay attention what the man is saying right now, because people are buying into AI so fast, Doug. And AI now is becoming the front face of their companies. As a high-level CEO that's worked in those rooms, would you throw a caution flag on that to say, don't let your AI become your brand?
100%. And also, there's people that are using AI now as a psychologist and as a trained mindset coach and trained mental health practitioner and healer of a master teacher healer of 5 modalities of healing. I can tell you, I have tried and tested it, and it gives the wrong answers. Very dangerous. And I actually said to the AI, I said, you need to be very careful because you just made a load of assumptions without getting all the questions or asking all the questions. And that could literally cause meltdown with a teenager who's going through some really tough times, a suicidal person, someone who's really depressed. Well, I've dealt with all of them. I did 3,000 plus hours of mental health work during the pandemic because of the way.
AI is a tool, but can never replace the human heart, the human condition, the human connection that we need to have as leaders. And again, leaders, please use it as a tool, but don't go overboard. Please never go overboard. So I teased it up in the opener. The energy side is an interesting, unique way that you're leading and discussing, but the caution of burnout. How do you balance those two? Because if you're putting out emoting, some of the best keynotes, best teaching I've ever done, I get done, I'm like, I am wiped, I am spent, and I know I've done my best. You can't do that every day and sustain that. How do you guard the burnout of giving away the energy that you need to give the lead effectively?
So I used to get a little bit burnt out when I was on stage as well. And one of the things that is very important to do before you go on stage is ground your energy. So make sure you're very grounded before you go on stage. I also set an intention of like I say violet because violet's the highest frequency of energy, a violet bubble around me. And the reason why I'd say that violet, because quite often people talk in intentional, oh, imagine a white kind of protection around you or something like that. But actually that's insinuating that you need protection. That's setting the intention that your energy isn't strong enough to take it. Whereas if you say a violet one, you're just going into that room and you're literally setting the intention of heightening the frequency of any lower frequency energy around you. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do when I go on stage as well, or I'm about to speak like this, is I always put my hand on my heart and I say, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect with the hearts of the audience in order to bless rather than impress and add as much value. And what I'm doing is I'm getting myself intentionally out of my head self, where there might be ego or fear, into my heart self, where there's just pure love. So again, the audience will feel that. And even someone who's a bit skeptical or a bit jealous or something like that, if they can truly feel and see that somebody is coming from a place of love and genuinely trying to add value and service, they will change their mindset about that person as well. So that's the other thing to do as well. And the other thing is to get your energy, make sure that you're, before you get on stage or before you're doing whatever you're doing, bit of stretching, bit of shaking it out, whatever you need to do. I like the tiger face as well. When you go into the mirror and you go, I can do this, I can do this. Well, I have to say though, I did do that one time in a big seminar. There was 250 people there. They were financial advisors. And as I was doing it in the toilet before the actual event, this financial advisor walked in and went, tiger faces. I used to do that. And I was so embarrassed. And then the sod sat in the front as well, looked at me, winked at me just as I was about to start, which didn't help whatsoever. But The tiger faces, the affirmations, the visualization, the
Yes.
protection mechanism, or the heightened frequency mechanism, the grounding techniques, the loosening it up, maybe a bit of breath work in terms of the Navy SEAL box breathing technique. All of those together create a sense of energy within you coming from a place of love.
I go to Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas, crank it up backstage, even before doing virtual shows. I'm air guitar and having a great time because that energy sets me up in the course then of where I want to go, lead, and speak, no matter if it's live in person or through the camera lens. And people can feel that, can't they? They can feel that you're ready to go before you say a word.
100%.
Well, you're touching on something. You've interviewed hundreds of elite performers. The list is staggering. We don't have time to go through them, but you have. What are some of the traits that you've observed from them that consistently show up as top leaders, communicators? They break the envelope. They connect in such a way that we can learn from them. What are some of the overarching traits that you've seen that work?
Yeah, well, number one, all of them never think they're the finished product. No, all of them tend to be looking to self improve all the time. Not because they think they're flawed, but because they want to try and get an extra edge. They want to
Mm.
try and learn the newest thing. They want to learn from other people. I mean, I know they all practice like myself. I mean, I will do a presentation and I will sometimes look at it maybe 3 times afterwards, because I generally video all my presentations, or I have
Yes.
somebody, a videographer there, and I will look at it and kind of critique it and think, how was I moving there? What was I doing there? How was I moving my head, my cheeks, my arms, whatever it is, to try and understand what could I have done better? How could I have improved? So they're looking for continuous improvement in their own selves. And that's not a perfection thing. It's
Nope.
it's an energy thing and a performance thing, because at the
Yes.
end of the day, you want to try, if you're a footballer or you're a hockey player or you're a golfer, you want to just get that slightly better putt, or you want to be able to knock the ball better in the top corner if it's a free kick.
Right.
Whatever it might be, you need to practice, practice, practice. I picked up John DeMartini from the Secret film, and he was in my car, and he had a huge kind of folder of notes. And I said to him, I said, I bet you that is your I am grateful statements, isn't it? And he goes, yeah, it is. I said, do you do them every day, John? He goes, I do them every day. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. Why do you do that? And he goes, Doug, if you think about it and you think about it, you bring about it. And it's so true. If you think, like anybody here who's listening to this,
Mhm.
think if you've got kids, right? If you give a kid a present and the kid isn't grateful,
Right.
do you feel like giving them anything else? No, right?
I feel like
So-
taking it back.
Yeah, so why would your subconscious mind allow you to receive more if you're not grateful for everything you've already received, the good and the bad? Because it's the bad times, the failures, the tough times, the relationship breaks up, the ailments, the job losses are the things that help us normally grow and learn from the most if we have awareness, as in self-awareness.
There's also the preparation, going back to the media side. More and more executive leaders are on camera, microphone, podcast, streaming TV shows like this. As a former host yourself, interviewing these amazing people, what's the biggest mistake executives and leaders are doing when it comes to storytelling and being on camera, microphone? What are they doing that's causing a hiccup, a disconnection with the audience? Because some of them are really hitting the mark. Some of them can't tell a story to save their life.
Yeah, and one of the things I saw actually today on LinkedIn, there was a particular company and they were talking about what they do and how great they are and how they are making loads of money and everything like that. And I think we forget it's what's in it for them. So it's very much about understanding what is the problem, the pain point that you can solve. So it's important to understand in terms of the story. Firstly, I went through this, or one of my clients, even better, went through that, and they were really struggling. And we did X, Y, Z together, and there was a massive change. So I have an example of that. So I had a client of mine who is a wonderful person who's German and was working for an American company in a certain industry. I'm not going to give it away because otherwise it was. And this lady was a senior financial officer for a particular company, and a director, sorry, and she was doing very well. I don't know. I'm not going to say how much salary she was on, but she was doing pretty well. Let's say it was well over 100,000, and she came to me for communication skills, presentation skills, and mindset as well.
Hmm.
And we went through how she phrased things, how she story told, how she utilized her voice better, how she asked questions better, how she really tried to communicate to understand the other person rather than making assumptions better. And then her mindset in terms of getting herself in the best possible energetic state, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And all of those together, within 6 months, I kid you not, I literally could show you, I actually have it on one of my slides. I show when she first approached me on WhatsApp. And then 6 months later, you can see on her LinkedIn, she's got promoted up to SVP level, almost doubling her salary as well. So I think it was Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates all said the most successful people in business are the ones, number one, with the best communication skills, and number two, with the best attitude. And if you're ever employing somebody, and if they've got good communication skills and they've got a good attitude, employ them, because you can teach them all the technical stuff. That's pretty easy.
Right.
It's having that attitude. It's having that energy. It's having the real aptitude to wake up in the morning with that zest to make a difference. That is what the kind of people that you want in your business.
Now, your book deals with a lot of different subject matters, but it's life, work, energy, relationships. Where do the executives most commonly maybe leak some of those things out where they shouldn't? Is there like too much life exposure now, too much work exposure that we're leaking out instead of holding back? Because this word being authentic now has become the big thing. We want to be authentic, be all real. Can we be too real and leak out too much and hurt ourselves in leadership?
I think so I know so in if you're in the office, if it's a political environment and you're trying to get promoted. However, if you're in sales and you're with a client and you're truly authentic and you share with vulnerability, then sometimes the client will too, and they'll trust you more. But within organizations, it can be political, it can be competitive. And regardless of all the training we do, I've seen it, I do conscious leadership training, I can still see there's a sense of competition within. And if you share too vulnerably and too much real stuff, maybe about
Mhm,
outside of work stuff, family
mhm.
stuff, personal stuff, relationship stuff, sometimes people take advantage. So there is a balance within the organization, definitely.
Yeah.
I've seen, though, and I've done it myself, where I have truly been vulnerable with clients about business, but also in terms of vulnerable stuff about myself, and it has created long-term relationships and millions of dollars, pounds, or euros in business, and I've seen that. Because when you're truly authentic with clients and they can sense that and they trust you, they're going to give you more business. And the other thing as well in business is people, because of the lack of trust within organizations, but also remember, we all have our goggles on, right? So we all see the world in our own perspectives.
Yes.
We're all a product of our parents, preachers, teachers, and past relationships and experiences, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in a business, you're going to have, let's say you have 400 people in your business, you're an SME or something like that. You're going to have 399 different viewpoints on every single thing within the organization. And if you expect everybody to understand how you communicate, how you speak, how you think, how you act, that is incredibly naive. So relationships are based on, if you take the word relationship, even, there's a ship, like in
Yep.
leadership or a
Yep.
relationship, where you need to put yourself and your team, yourself and your clients on board the ship, traveling in the right direction of what you're trying to achieve. So for a company, that might be the mission statement, it might be the goals that align to that, the tasks. So you need to make sure that your team is aligned to that ship as such. But then in order to do that, you need to relay, in terms of conscious communication and active listening, your shuns, your intentions, your expectations, or your communications, or your presentations, to be able to make sure you align yourself and your team, you like yourself and your clients on board the ship traveling in that direction of what you're trying to achieve. And the biggest thing is that people, instead of asking questions, they make assumptions. And when you assume, in terms of breaking that word down, you make an ass out of you. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you ask questions to understand, so that everybody is collaboratively working together towards those collective goals. Now, I will say that having different people with different perspectives is amazing. And that's why diversity and inclusion is such a
Oh,
beautiful thing.
yes.
Because then you can give different angles and perspectives on the problems to give better solutions for the answers as well.
Doug Gordon, this has been marvelous. We're going to keep on going here. But first, there's a QR code that's going to take them to your website. What are they going to find when they go check out more about Doug?
Well, my website, I've tried to put as much as possible on other podcasts like this. I've done a few talks in terms of how to connect with your board, your teams, your clients, or even yourself in terms of communication skills. I've got a lot of presentation stuff on there in terms of being able to help people communicate better, mindset better, basically get into the best possible state. Because you talk about energy, right? And
Yeah.
I say that even communication and presentation skills is all about a transfer of energy. The waves of my sounds is going into the computer, up to the satellite, into you. So that's energy, right?
Yes.
So that's the first part of the energy. The second part then is making sure that you optimize your energy by connecting to your heart self, your heartfelt purpose, or creating purpose within your business. So you know that your goal, where you're going for and why you're doing what you're doing within your business, is energetic aligned to you.
So I'm curious, speaking about energy, what energizes you? What recharges your battery to keep being the guy that you are right now, that we're seeing fully animated, fully engaged, fully focused? What helps you do that?
Well, I absolutely love standing on stage, not out of an ego thing, but I am the one to many opportunity to be. It's so great. I'm so grateful when you get that opportunity to be able to stand on a stage, and there's 21 years in corporate world, 7 years in outside in entrepreneurial world, and probably 28 years of learning about life. And we all
Mhm.
have our unique experiences in life. And if you can take that mess and turn it into a message to give it meaning to help other people, it's living your purpose or
Yeah.
living one of the parts of your purpose.
Now we're gonna shift gears and have a little bit of fun a little bit. I always love going a little bit wackadoodle at the end, have a little bit of fun, get to know the Doug behind the Doug a little bit more. And so you've interviewed hundreds of people, like we said, but what instantly tells you that someone does manage your energy well? What's the giveaway that you've seen that you can go click? They know what they're doing. They've got this energy thing dialed in. What's the telltale sign?
Well, you can hear it in the fluctuation of their voice. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their smile. You can see it the way they move. All of that is linked to your energy. I mean, all of us know that when you have a bad night's sleep and you first wake up in the morning, you can be like, oh. And in fact, one of the best things is, you can see people who, after a 2-week holiday, they sometimes have to drag themselves into the office, drag themselves into the desk and sit there going, what the bleep am I doing here? And yet, when they're going on holiday, they spring out of bed, spring into the taxi, spring into the airplane, spring to the swimming pool with
Yes.
loads of energy. So you can feel energy, you can see energy, and you can see also, I think there was talks about this, how Einstein, for example, as a child, was relatively average, I believe. But then
Yes.
he,
Yes.
he got into a sense of connection. I think he was quite religious, but he was actually spiritual. He used to meditate. And when he meditated, he brought himself into his heart self, his best self, and almost like downloaded all this amazing
Yes.
information to
Yeah.
share with the world. So when you connect with your best self, when you're energetically at a high frequency, you tend to think quicker. You tend to come up with ideas that are better, and you're energetically connected to other people, empathetically understanding them better as well, so that you can create better opportunities for you and other people as well. So you can see that when people come in, they have this certain high energy. Now, you can see the differential of the ones that are genuine and authentic and the
Yeah.
ones that are bullshitting. I mean, I can see on Instagram there are a few people who spend fortunes, I don't know why, on thousands of fake followers. In fact, there's one person I know has something like 13 million fake followers.
Right.
And this particular person, I have to say, I can tell, it's overacting.
So if you could look in the future, maybe 20 years from now, what would be the headline written about you connected to your life, your energy, your communication? What would be the headline describing what you brought to the world?
Well, I think Stephen Covey, as in Stephen M.R. Covey, said to me, he said, Doug, you're the energy man. You're like energy on legs. And I remember actually one of my first bosses, I worked for HSBC, he said the same thing. And he said, geez, Doug, your energy is like, and I think what I would like to hear, and this is what I always try and do, is the man who energetically brought positivity, compassion, empathy, and most importantly, love to the world. And as I said, love is an acronym for lots of vibrant energy. And I always say that if you gleam your inner light out to the world, that's the best thing. And I would like someone to say, Doug gleamed from a true, authentic place.
Doug, this has been fabulous. What's the best bit of advice you could give a leader right now who's just hearing about this aspect of energy and leadership, the hidden mystery of how it can unlock so much? What's your best wisdom does it to land the plane today and talk about energy and leadership?
Well, as I said, energy is a form of communication, presentation. It's energy between two people. And I would always say that, in any organization, there's going to be different entities or people that have different energies, and really take time to understand them. Because quite often what happens is someone comes in and they feel a bit shitty in themselves because it could be something personal, nothing to do with you. And they
Right.
project that out to the other person in some way or form. As a leader or a teammate within an organization or even in a relationship, instead of getting wrapped up in the emotion and commotion of what they're doing, is to step outside, put yourself almost on the 10th floor, look back down and ask yourself, what's going on with this person? How can I help this person? What can I learn? What can I grow from? And what can I add value to this person and become the best emotionally intelligent person of myself so that we can create win-win together?
Doug, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for taking the time. And what a way to kick off 2026 on Rock the Stage Show. Thank you very much, Doug.
My pleasure. Take care.
Wow. So there it is. You learn a little bit more about energy, but also how to also pause and not just let it leak out, spill over. There is a way to leverage that energy and communication as a leader and do it better and sharper. Hopefully, this has been a great way to help get 2026 going for you. Come back next week. You never know who's going to be here, but we're going to have a great conversation. Dive into something that's going to help you scale and grow and shine brighter on microphone, stage, and of course, grow your brand larger and larger. Come back next week. We'll see you here for Rock the Stage time. Rock the Stage Show. Until then, I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Have a great week.